So we are part 2 after the break. So turn you over. Tingnan mo, basa mo pa lang mayaman na. Turn you over to Marvin Gerbo. Marvin.
Ginaya ko lang to sa iyo Pero difference ito, Shopee to binili. Anyways.
Ay akin, mas social yung akin, bro. Lazada yung akin.
Okay.
So, turn you over to the one and only, my idol, Marvin G.
No. Anyways, hope you guys are learning, no? I hope that this is something that is interesting also for all of you. Kasi what I've realized is this, okay lang naman na even if you don't invest in the stock market, pero at least alam nyo na before coming in, if the stock market is for you or not for you. But saying that you have to watch it every time, the volatility to be able to make money, pwedeng hindi because dividend investing is amazing. And nagustuhan ko na lang siya nung medyo tumatanda na ako. So this was something that I employed 2013 ako noon. And just to realize also yung mga pinapadugtog na music ni Randall kanina, hindi ko na naabutan yung mga music niya. Sabi ko, anong mga songs yan? So yun, nung kabataan ko, Maroon 5 yung yung lumalabas.
Excuse me, Marvin, in-adjust ko yung music para sa iyo.
Alam ko elementary ako, Maroon 5 yung lumalabas.
Kasi yung playlist ko, Billie Eilish, yung adjusted ko para sa iyo.
Anyways, so you can also, pagdating sa stocks, no, it can also be based on number one, gaano kayo katanda na, tsaka gaano pa kayo ka-aggressive. Kasi mali rin yung misconception din kasi na people would always say na pag nag-60 kayo, 70 or 80, dapat wala na kayo masyadong exposure sa equity. Pero you have to realize that, in my opinion, na okay lang magkaroon ng exposure sa equity kasi kung 60 years old kayo, what if mabuhay kayo hanggang 80 or 90? Then that means that if everything is in something that is not equity related anymore, by the time na 80 years old kayo, yung pera na linagay nyo na hindi na nawala sa equity, baka wala na siyang value or baka hindi na siya lumaki and baka kapusin na kayo. So there always has to be a component na nagbibigay sa iyo ng growth at nagbibigay sa iyo ng cash flow. So yung technique ko is this. I have certain positions that give me growth, but I also have certain positions that will give me cash flow, and I don't mix the two. Kung for cash flow ka, and it can be a combination ng bonds, either retail treasury bonds or corporate bonds or REITs or stocks na nagbibigay ng dividends or even LTN CDs or even yung mga high yielding na savings accounts. Their whole goal is just to give me cash flow. Then on the other side, yun yung mga stocks na nagbibigay ng growth. But for people who cannot tolerate yung volatility fluctuations or those that yung sinasabihan nila na hindi ko kaya talagang bantayan dividends will work. Yun. Number 2 is this. There's a notion that the stock market is very, very risky and volatile, which is also not that true because as a whole, maybe there will be some stocks na makikita mo for those na nag-invest sa market. You will see stocks like PHA, BSC, APL, boom, move up, then suddenly boom, move down, then consolidate. Ganon din yung ASEN and Dito for some time. Push up, then you would see sharp movements down. That's what's pictured in the stock market. People always see it that way. Pero hindi naman lahat ng stocks ganon The reason why I say that is the stock market is not risky and volatile because you can also buy preferred shares. And preferred shares, parang siyang bonds. Pero, para sa akin kung i-analyze mo, may bonds na Ayala Corp. May bonds na may Ayala Corp na preferred shares. The only reason na bumibili ka ng bonds na Ayala Corp kasi you believe that they have the ability to pay. Since they have the ability to pay and you believe Ayala Corp is a good company, might as well just buy the preferred shares of Ayala Corp. Kasi kung naniniwala kayong okay sila, why not take it a step further than just buy their preferred shares? And to put that even further, ganito mo siya pwede i-analyze I'm not sure if you've heard this already, that every time you make money from bonds, yung taxes nyo are 20%. Every time you make money from preferred shares, your taxes are only 10%. But anytime you put that under a corporation, your taxes are 0. Under the current law, alam ko i-change nila yung mga investment related taxes, but segmenting those three, there's a lot of savings when you go the preferred shares route. And ganun din pala for any other stocks that give you dividends, 10% lang yung taxes noon if it's listed under an individual. So, the stock market as a whole, there will be some stocks that will give you volatility, but it's not true for all the stocks out there, especially if you buy preferred shares. And this was something that was so interesting for me in the middle of the pandemic, because when markets crashed noong March, I knew that I had something that I could expect from a cash flow level. I knew that, alam ko, may papasok on a regular basis sa akin because of the preferred shares that I got, because also of may bonds pa rin naman ako because of the bonds also that I got. It gives you a level of predictability. And what a strategy that I can share to you, that what you can do is mag-invest kayo sa growth stocks or sa equity funds, whatever your iteration is. When that starts to grow already and then that money starts to become uncomfortable for you, take some out, buy stocks that will give you dividends, buy preferred shares. This is your rental income. This is your passive income for life. This is your predictability. This is that kung sinabi ng Ayala Corp na preferred shares na 6% siya, you will get 6% up until the tenure. And that's what I've placed here. As long as the company is fundamentally sound, and you hold it up until it's called or up until it matures. Kung yung pinasok nyo na 1 million, yung pinasok nyo na 500,000, yung pinasok nyo na 2 million or 100,000, up until mag-mature siya, for sure yun, you will get that whole amount plus whatever dividends that you were supposed to get in the middle. Yung drawback lang niya, and that's why it's not attractive for a lot of people, is basically this. Kung naglagay ka ng 100, pagtapos ng term, 100 pa rin siya. You don't get any capital appreciation, not unless you trade it in between. So, tradable rin naman to, may capital appreciation pa rin to. However, if you hold it up until the end, kung ano yung pinasok mo, yun lang din makukuha mo. Which is yun yung lamang ng common shares. Why? Because kung common shares binili mo, tas may dividend siya, tas mataas yung dividend niya, hinawakan mo siya for 5 years, hinawakan mo siya for 10 years, mas malaki yung chance na yung stock price niya might be even higher. You get capital appreciation, but in the same way, while waiting for it, you get paid dividends. And I'll never stress this enough, dividends are amazing. Kasi isipin nyo to, habang naghihintay kayo, habang hinahawakan nyo, binabayaran kayo. At dahil maganda yung company, pag binitawan nyo siya later on, the price will still be higher. Yun lang. Anyways, I wanted to show this. This is Ayala Corp. This is Ayala Corp during the pandemic. As you can see right here, Ayala Corp, fundamentally sound company, good company that's built to last. In the midst of the pandemic, bumagsak pa rin siya. From almost 1,000, somewhere around 2019, to see it drop to somewhere around 300 plus, March 2020. That being said, totoo naman na nag-recover siya. You can see it right here also in the right side of the chart na nag-recover siya. But here's what's interesting. This is a preferred share of Ayala Corp, ACPB1. You will see it right here. In the midst of the pandemic, prices remained flat. So again, this is not something that you buy because you want to trade it kasi hindi siya masyado liquid. Pero kung matanda ka na or ayaw mo ng volatility or ayaw mo na nakakatakot or ayaw mo na masyadong gumagalo ng prices, preferred shares is something that will give you stability, plus the dividends that you have. So you always think of the stock market as a storer of value plus an option that could give you appreciation, plus in the same way for this, it can give you cash flow. So hindi totoo na lahat ng stock sa stock market na pag sinabi nilang risky, volatile yung stock market, it's not so true, primarily because if kung preferred share, you still get your cash flow, and then if you hold it until the end, assuming na fundamentally sound siya, hindi mababawasan yung pera mo. And I want to say this also that anytime you go straight into the stock market, kailangan mo pa rin pag-aralan. It does not mean na preferred shares bibilin mo, wala na siyang risk. That's why you also have to study kung yung company na yun may ability talaga na kung masama yung panahon or masama yung economy or masama yung negosyo, will they have the ability to pay it? Kasi kung risky yun, or you see na baka may threat na hindi nila kayang bayaran, then it might not be good still to buy it. That's why anytime you go direct investing in the stock market, fundamental analysis is very, very important. And which is something that's skipped. A lot of people don't like to take the time to study. Yun lang, unbeknownst to many, people always say that the stock market is passive income. It's passive income pag napag-aralan nyo na. Pero pag dumating sa, naglalagay ka lang thinking that hulog lang ako pera tapos kikita ako, pwede naman yun, pero you might have a lot of sleepless nights kung hindi nyo alam kung bakit nyo linagay doon. And I always tell people this, it's never about the stock that you buy, it's more about ano yung rason kung bakit mo siya binili. Kasi kung hindi mo alam, wala kang reason on why you bought it, it's easy to get shaken. And true enough, you would buy stocks na pwedeng nagkamali kayo pero nabumaba siya pagkabili mo. Pero if you know and you know and you know what it is, then it will give you also the conviction to buy into it again. Number 3 is this, misconception is, can you forecast or predict the stock market movement? The answer that I'll tell you is, no one can pinpoint exactly how the stock market will move on a daily basis. As in, no one can predict na, for example, ito yung magiging presyo ng stock na to by 10 a.m. Ito yung magiging presyo niya by 10:45. No one can predict that. No one can even predict what the closing price will be. No one can predict, hindi, ito magiging presyo niya by Thursday next week. It's impossible. It's impossible to pinpoint exactly how a stock will close 7 days from now or what its price will be at the opening 15 days from now. No one can do that. And above and beyond that, no one can actually know or forecast the peak or the bottom of the market, or even areas where, for example, people will say, ghost months, benta ako. Pero if you look at it that way, kung ghost months nagbebentahan, di lahat ng tao alam na bagsak yun, lahat ng tao bumibili sila ng August kasi ghost months. But it doesn't happen. If you look at ghost months also, you will note that there are certain years na it actually made money during the entire ghost month period. You can also see that when the market was bullish, it even accelerated even further. Or you can also see it that when the market was not, or was just basically consolidating, kung naglagay ka ng pera during ghost months, possible also na hindi ka kumita, hindi ka rin nalugi, it stayed put. So that's what I'm saying. No one can predict where the market is headed. No one can exactly pick where the bottom is. No one can exactly pick where the highest point is. But as investors, this is what we can do. We can know when the stock is cheap or expensive. And you can check this out. Here are some of the parameters that you can look at when you want to know if a stock is cheap or expensive. Please do your research on this. I'm just listing it down for you since this is not really a fundamental analysis course. But one of the things that you can look at is its price to earnings, which is the price of the company up against yung earnings per share niya. Then you can also look at price to book, the price of the company versus its book value. Then you can also look at, and this was something that I looked at last year. Very, very important for me to last year. Sino ba yung mga companies na bumagsak pero sobrang dami ng cash tsaka sobrang konti ng utang? Kasi when times are bad, you want the company to have a lot of cash because when times are bad, especially in 2020, cash is king. It made them protected based on what was going on. And you don't want them also to have lots of debt because if they have lots of debt, humina yung kita nila, they might have a bit of trouble to pay it back. Another way for you to do it also is you can compute its intrinsic value. You can look at if it's undervalued, overvalued by looking at what its value would be a year, 2 years from now based on the price right now. So if you look at Teka, if the value of Tesla is $800 per share, pero I think it's around 1,200 3 years from now, kung binili ko ngayon 3-year holding period naman ako, di undervalued siya, so kahit malaki na inakit ng Tesla, bibiling ko pa rin. Parang ganun. Or another way for you to value it is dividend yield, meaning you want to buy a stock that gives you a dividend yield at 6%. Kung 4% na lang yung dividend yield niya, then it might not be worth buying. In the same way, ganun din dito, that if you start to compute it also that, okay, hindi ko alam kung ano magiging presyo ng stock market bukas hindi ko alam kung ano siya 6 months from now. Pero at this point in time, yung yield niya, dividend yield niya attractive sa akin, I'll buy it. Or at this point in time, yung PE ratio niya cheap na para sa akin, I'll buy it. Or at this point in time, kahit malaki binagsak ng price, hindi ko alam yung presyo niya 8 months from now. Pero look at their balance sheet. Sobrang dami nilang cash. How can they go out of business? I will buy it already right now. That could be your narrative. You cannot predict, you cannot forecast the highest and lowest points, but there are certain things that you can see. from the fundamentals of the company that will give you the conviction to come in when everyone's scared. Um, there are some videos that I posted in YouTube. Just check it out. I have 70 plus videos on fundamental analysis. Um, I hope that helps you also. A lot of the things that on a broader aspect, I discussed it there. Another one is you cannot know the top, you cannot know the bottom, you cannot predict the prices, but you can know the stock's direction. And this is what I love the most about stocks is you can follow the direction just by using technicals. And I have a portfolio where I just do position trading, meaning when the stock is in a downtrend, as much as possible, I'm not positioned there. But when the stock is starting to reverse, I start to allocate capital. And while it's continuing its upward movement, I try to discipline myself not to hold. Kasi yung pinaka-tempting sa investors and traders is ang bilis natin magbenta. And my biggest mistakes most of the time are selling too fast when I'm supposed to hold on to it. And that's what technicals have taught me. And that's what discipline also in trading has taught me that pag hindi mo kailangan magbenta, the most prudent thing that you can do is to position and just maximize your gains. Please remember this, that in the world of stock investing and trading, it's all about positioning. And once you've started to position with volume, it's all about having the discipline to hold. The money is not about watching it every minute. The money is in positioning and holding your position up until the trend bends or up until the trend is broken. So one example, this was Ayala Land, no. Ngayon medyo nagbago na yung formation niya, but I showed this to the course last year that Ayala Land stock was dropping. It dropped massively from the pandemic. But also, as you can see right here, from a stock that was going down, it was a very, very clear indication that it was reversing up. And one of the stocks that I showed you also earlier that mataas magbigay ng dividends, SPC, this is a stock that from an uptrend perspective, this is a stock that's worth riding. As you can see right here, very, very consistent from 2017. Very, very massive uptrend from around 2 pesos to where it is at around 10 plus pesos per share. And that's what's interesting about uptrends. Hindi mo alam kung ano yung presyo niya bukas, pero alam mo kung saan yung direction niya. It's just like riding a train or just like riding MRT na hindi mo alam gaano kadaming pasahero sasakay sa show, hindi mo alam kung gaano katagal siya titigil sa show, pero alam mo yung direction saan siya pupunta. And that's what technicals will tell you. It will tell you as long as the direction is up, you hold on to your position. And I don't have to sell it at the highest point. I don't have to buy at the lowest point. But what's important for me is to buy it at the reversal. And what's important to me is to hold on to it up until currently it's still pushing up. And I'll sell once I see it start to reverse. And then I'll give you another example. And this is so interesting because this is so relevant because of the pandemic. And I said that I love fintech, I love technology, and I love the fusion of it. I want to show you this. This is PayPal. PayPal, if you see the left part of the screen, around 140 US dollars, that was already its all-time high prior to the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, US markets were at an all-time high, massively all-time high. Then, because of the pandemic, bumagsak siya halos kalahati. Ayan, you'll see it right here, left side. 140 all the way down to 78, 80 US dollars a share. But because it was one of the biggest recipients of the new normal, fintech, everyone transacting online, everyone paying online, everyone doing all of their stuff, not using cash anymore. As you can see it, in just a few months, nabasag niya yung dati niyang highest price. It broke its highest price May 2020, 2 months after the large drop. And fast forward to where we are right now, it's almost at 300 US dollars per share from highest point of 140, from the drop of 78. But the goal here is just to follow the trend. So looking at it here, now if you can see my cursor here, it's at its highest point. So ngayon, kung hawak ko yung stock, I don't know how high it will go. But what I do know is I'm not gonna sell it yet up until I see a clear reversal na yung pag-akyat nito tapos na. Moving to local stocks, ganun din. One of the stocks that I would always talk about and has done well also from a trend perspective, this is a REIT. As you can see right here, it's massively still pushing in an uptrend which started November 2020. So as you look at it from where it is right now, this was prior to the movement up today, no, yung presyo niya today nag 30, halos 34 siya, but I hindi ko alam na halos 34 siya today, hindi ko alam 'yun. Pero alam ko, hindi ko pa rin dapat siya ibenta kasi the trend is telling me that A-REIT is still moving up, A-REIT is still pushing up. And if for those who use technicals, you will see from the Bollinger Bands to the moving averages to the MACD, all of it was still pointing that, hey, A-REIT is still in an uptrend and is still pushing up. That I don't know how high it will go, but what I do know is kung hawak ko siya, I'm not supposed to sell it yet. Yun. Another example, this was Shell. Baliktad naman. Shell was in a downtrend. And the goal here is to stay away from stocks up until I see a clear reversal, up until I see it start to reverse and push up. So the main goal is habang bumababa siya. Isipin nyo to, please remember, look at the upper left side. It was around 65 pesos per share. And if you look at it here, it's at 17.5 pesos per share as of November. This is a November chart. So based on this, your goal is to wait for it until you see it start to reverse, and that's when you start to position once it starts to reverse once again. Number 4, a lot of the things that people would ask is the stock market safe? And I asked this, wait lang, I need some liquid. And true enough, a lot of people have been asking that primarily because of the drop that happened last year, primarily also because in the midst of the largest lockdowns, in the midst of recessions that have been happening, questions of safe ba yan, paano kung mawala yung pera natin? And this is what you can always tell people that either want to invest directly in equities or want to invest in the stock market as stock pickers. You always go back to the fundamental concept of what is the stock market. And when you invest in the stock market, you are investing in corporations, that you are investing in the largest corporations in the world. That this is one of my favorite tech stocks. They're called the FANG stocks. FANG because Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and then FAMANG, may Microsoft, and then Apple. The reason why I point that here is if you notice it, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, and Apple, they're part of the new normal, from e-commerce to streaming to communications to subscription to the devices that Apple makes as well, to the services that Apple gives. You always point it to people that you are not investing on a ticker, you are investing on a company, that as long as the company performs well, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, as long as they're earning, then the possibility that even though may volatility siya, you're still supposed to be okay. And I want to submit this to all of you, that it's riskier for you to invest on a friend's startup. Kasi bakit? Yung startup ng kaibigan nyo, pwedeng malugi. Yung startup na pinaglagay nyo yung pera, pwedeng mawala yung pera nyo, pwedeng mag-zero. Sa stock market, if you notice the crash from last year, bumagsak yung stocks 30%, 40%, 50%, hindi siya nag-zero. The reason why I say it's not as risky as what people are saying is madami sa atin nag-invest tayo sa negosyo na kala natin safe. Nag-start ka ng food cart thinking that because you put your money in a food cart, you would make money from it. But true enough, because hindi pangit location or talagang hindi napag-aralan or baka na mismanage or yung tao hindi okay, yung perang linagay natin hoping for a return, the 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 na linagay natin sa food cart, ang dami ko nakita naging zero. And that won't happen if you invest in good companies in the market. I'll give you an example. Frutas is not Jollibee. Frutas is not Max. Frutas is not Shakey's. But they're exposed into food carts. They're not the biggest. They're aspiring to be like Jollibee. So I had a talk with the CEO that idol nila yung Jollibee, but they're far from Jollibee. Frutas also, yung stock ng Frutas at the midst of the pandemic, ang laki ng binagsak. Pero hindi siya nagsara, hindi siya nalugi. Yun yung advantage ng market. If you are buying companies that are good, totoo pwede bumagsak yung stock price niya, pero possibly if the company is good, hindi siya mag-bankrupt. And that's that's the biggest advantage of it versus buying or starting your own business that you're trying to do for the first time, or yung kaibigan nyo na lumapit sa inyo, invest ka sa akin, mag-start tayo ng business natin, tayong dalawa, sosyo tayo, kung ano mangyari, 50% owner ka, mas malaki yung chance na malugi. And I've seen so many iterations of that. Laundry shop, milk tea shop, water refilling station, their own groceries, so many iterations of different businesses, and I've seen people lose money also that way. And that's what I'm saying. It's not, totoo yun na pwedeng bumaba yung pera nyo, but it's not as risky as the other asset classes out there. Number 5, and I think this is my last point also for the night, is this. People would say that do not sell when your stock is down because it's only a paper loss. That's true in some cases. That's false in some cases also. What do I mean by that? Pag bumagsak yung mutual fund na binili nyo, true, sure yon. By all means, you have an option not to sell because you're buying a mutual fund, you're buying an index fund. Never magzizero yan. Never magzizero yan. Pero, here's what's interesting. If nag-invest ka sa stock market, there's a chance that the company that you bought that's down massively, pwedeng ma-halt yung trading, pwedeng ma-delist, meaning binili mo siya ng 10 piso, 5 piso na lang siya ngayon, na-delist siya, wala ka ng chance ma-recover yung pera mo. Or another company, binili mo ng 7 or binili mo ng 10, tapos na-halt yung trading, even if you want to get out, you can't get out and you will still be at a loss and hawak mo siya na matagal. Or worst off, you bought a company and then as you bought the company, nag-bankrupt. Kung na-bankrupt siya, similar to other businesses also, you lose everything. Pwede, tama naman, they can sell their assets, but you barely get anything because babayaran muna nila yung mga taong pinagkautangan nila before they give common shareholders. So, this is what I'm saying. If you are investing in the stock market, tapos bumagsak yung stock na binili nyo, tapos long-term investor kayo, I'm just talking to investors here because if you are a trader, by all means, follow the technicals. The technicals are telling you to cut loss, sell at a loss, sell. Pero if you are an investor, do not sell, do not just take this at face value. There's a level of analysis that you can put into it. What is that? If the stock is down, but the fundamentals are good, and you are a long-term investor, then by all means, hold. By all means, add some more. By all means, you can still sleep soundly at night. Lalo na pag index fund. That's why I always tell people also, pag super passive ka, index fund. Why? 30 stocks, index, recalibrated. Never magkakaroon ng company inside that 30 na mababankrupt. Never magkakaroon dun sa 30 na companies na yun na malulugi. Because before siya even malugi, matagal na siyang wala dun sa 30 na yun. Or equity funds, never magkakaroon ng stocks na bibili ng fund managers ng bankrupt also. Because bago pa lang siya pangit na matagal na siyang wala dun. That's one of the biggest arbitrages na lamang ng mga taong nag-i-invest sa mutual fund. They will never have exposure to a company na bankrupt. May mga companies that probably will be battered from a price standpoint. But if you follow kung ano yung mga binibili ng mutual funds natin, at least locally, 45% of that, most of the time, are Ayala Land, Ayala Corp, BDO, SM Prime. And the remaining 55%. If you have 45% na yun yung 5 stocks mo, kahit may magsara doon, just assuming na may magsara, it won't significantly batter the fund. That's what I'm saying. Yung difference nun, if you are individually picking your stocks, is this. You are a long-term investor, kailangan alam mo talaga yung fundamentals kasi pag bumagsak siya, yun yung magbibigay sa'yo ng peace of mind if you will add or hold. However, I want to submit this. If the stock is down and the fundamentals are bad, even if you are a long-term investor, you have to cut. You have to sell. You have to get out of that position, even if you're at a loss. And I said this at the start that every time you expose yourself to equities, every time you expose yourself to the stock market, there will always be a point in time where you will have to sell at a loss, especially if there are scenarios that are not going your way, even if your time horizon is long. Why? Because a bad stock that's down with bad fundamentals even if you hold on to it for 5, 10, 15 years, kung walang nagbago sa fundamentals nun, your stock won't go up. And you can review a lot of stocks that are below 1 peso right now. Some of them above 5 pesos sila, tapos ngayon below 1 peso na sila. Some of those stocks have been like that for years already. And some people held on to it for the hope na babalik. And please remember this, hope is not a strategy. Hope is good. Hope is something that's so amazing. Pero hindi kayo dapat bibili or mag-hold on to a stock just because you're hoping that it's gonna go up. So there. So I hope you guys got a lot from this. I just wanna end it with this, that there's no such thing as a perfect investment, but there's an investment that fits you. And there's an investment that fits your clients. And there's an investment that hindi nagwo-work sa clients nyo pero sa inyo nagwo-work. So that's why as a financial advisor, your goal is to figure out what works for them and to be able to structure something based on what will work for them. And it could be a combination of investments. And what's so interesting is uh, it has to come to a point where you start planning it based on what works for their portfolio allocation, and not just because the stock market will give you the best yields out there. And ganun din, I just wanna piggyback back on the story of Bitcoin. uh, I gradually increased it lang. So from 2013, zero allocation, 2018, sobrang konting allocation. Then gradually, 2018, 2019, started to put in more to 2020, 2021, when we started to see things shift in how people perceived it. I started to put in more also. But what I'm saying is your clients also will change through the years, meaning there will be some investments that 5 years ago it was too risky for them, but because their experience, their acumen also got better, 5 years later, yung dating risky hindi na risky. Or yung dating also dating boring sa kanila, ngayon importante na. I'll give you a balance. When I was younger, ayoko ng dividends. Ngayon, nagdi-dividends ako. Pero when I was younger also, ayoko ng Bitcoin. Ngayon mas matanda ako, nagbi-Bitcoin ako. And see the contrast. I tried to go to dividends to get security, but I also tried to go to Bitcoin for that growth that I have not seen in a very, very, very long time. So it's not something that will fit a lot of people, but it's something that fits me. And lastly, please do remember that it's never a competition of what's best, because you can have all of those investments and your clients can have a combination. It doesn't matter if it's VUL balance, mutual fund, index fund, and individual stocks also for both local and US allocations. So there, I hope you guys got a lot from this. Thank you so much, Randall Chongson, for inviting me. It's an honor to be able to impart principles and strategies to all of you, and to be able just to share. And I do hope that whatever gets shared here is something that will truly help you and truly benefit you. Kasi yun lang naman, and that's the reason why I love sharing this, is because I do hope that it impacts your lives, your portfolio, and also the way you impart it to your clients. Because at the end of the day, I'll say this, that it's so important that whatever you get here is something that impacts you first, because you won't be able to give to people what you don't have and what you have not experienced. It will be immensely better that as you start sharing this, you are not sharing it based on what you read, what you looked at in YouTube, or what somebody else kunento na ibang tao. Iba yung napagdaanan nyo, iba yung talagang nakita mo, oo totoo to this is something that really worked And the reason why, even for some stocks that I would normally not share, or not tell people na hindi, wag niyo bilhin yan kasi risky yan pero for me hindi siya risky para sa akin, I would still go through it. But the reason why I'm going through it is because it's something that works for me. So there, thank you so much,
Right.
Randall Chongson, for having
Okay, Marvin,
me.
stay on a little while. Unang-una, I'd like to thank you, no? I've seen how you have grown over the years, and how your net worth has really ballooned, no? So
Grabe,
alam mo guys,
Not true.
yung sinasabi ni Marvin, mga dividends, it only matters if it's sizable, no? Kung ang pera mo 10,000, maliit lang yung dividends ng 10,000 pesos, no? So you want to be able to start the strategies and build it over the years. So take advantage of the time that you have already. Since some of you are still young, you can take advantage of that. Marvin started investing when he was like 11 years old. No, so just imagine, and bought Bitcoin at $100. Or so here's the thing, Marvin. I hope you stay for a few questions. No, okay lang. First
Sige lang,
question
go.
sa akin galing to. Okay pa ba pumasok sa A-REIT? Kasi considering na, that just that they continue to get rentals and stuff like that, despite of the increase in the price already. If you are really more into the I want consistency on income, is still good. Is it still good to come into A-REIT?
Ah, biggest regret ko was yung sweet spot ko for A-REIT was 25 to 27 pesos per share.
Mm-hmm.
That was my sweet spot. I did not expect that it would go that high too fast. Pero what was not expected also was, please remember this. Nung nag-IPO sila, they only had 3 buildings. Then they said they would get the Cebu building. But after that, kaya rin siya umaakyat because they bought another one in Ortigas, then they got another one also in the Technopark area, which will add to their rental revenue. And habang nadadagdag yon, people have been computing yung yields na pwede niya ilagay. So to answer your question is this. Kung at 34 pesos, assuming they give around 1.4 to 1.7 na dividends, kung okay sa'yo yung yield na yon, at 34 pesos, okay na. So, you can buy it. Pero at the back of your head also, thinking that kung bumaba to, kasi mataas naman na talaga siya, tanggap mo. Kasi hindi mo naman siya binili dahil mataas, binili mo siya because you're trying to peg na okay na sa'yo yung 5% na dividend, assuming na 1.7% dividends.
Fair enough.
So, yun.
So ako, honest, I wanted to buy it like 27, 28. I forgot. I just forgot. It happens. Anyway.
So to share also, no, para at least people also have some context. Even though bumili ako around the 25, 27 mark also. Si Rex, by the way, sasabihin niya ako 24 ako, sabi niya ganun. Pero I was buying up. I bought at 29, I bought at 30, then even I think 2 weeks ago 32 point something siya. I still bought because I was looking at yung possibility ng yields niya. So at 32 something, I would still get 5+% na dividend yield.
In fact, just to honor si Rex, no, he encouraged us to buy at 24, 25, no. Just minsan kasi kahit na gano'n ka strategy mo, it's the execution, no. If you forget or if you don't, you're too preoccupied with other things or you're looking at other things, you really miss out. So I'm gonna read a little bit of some questions here, no. So just to recap, no, Marvin, you're seeing in the technology side, very limited technology sa Pilipinas, no. Let's just assuming, no, that the bigger growth you're saying is those that will focus on more of the in the internet, the more of the not the broad, what do you call it? Not the 5G, but rather the one that the broadband because of what's happening right now.
Sa Philippines 'yon kasi sa
Philippines, yeah.
Yung choices mo lang sa Philippines yung infrastructure na nagbibigay ng internet sa atin kasi wala naman talagang app-based or software-based company sa Philippines. So closest will be that at least yung proxy will be the telco company at least sa Philippines. Yeah.
So you see the growth is really coming the Philippines is malaking room for growth for those that are focused more on broadband.
Because broadband it's not yet yung
saturated.
Hindi pa siya ganun kalaki.
Yeah.
Konti pa lang yung may broadband tapos yung nangyari last year pushed everyone na okay lang, I don't need to be that mobile, I can just work from home. Then the need to get higher internet also.
Right. So there goes. So options mo would be Converge and the others. Anyway, so Marvin, this maraming questions dito para sa iyo, no? Can you share your indicators in buying your stocks? Personal muna, what would be your indicators?
It's very for those who've been watching my videos, I have a core na indicators na gamit, then I have some that I use na pandagdag. So yung core ko, that's what you see in YouTube, very 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 clear yun. I use candlesticks to determine yung day to day. Then I would normally identify ano yung trend niya first. Very very important for me to know the trend because alam ko kung uptrend siya, do I just position and I just maximize it, or kung sideways siya, that's when I can trade the volatility. So after knowing that, that's when, after identifying yung trend, that's when I plot my support and resistance. Then to further validate yung support and resistance ko, that's when I add moving averages and MACD. Yun yung core ko. Then, depending on the scenario, nagdadagdag ako doon. For example, pag bumabagsak yung market, naglalagay ako agad RSI to check which stocks are oversold right now. Baka yun yung una kong tatargetin kasi since they're oversold, then nasa support sila, they're the ones that I could easily target also. Parang ganon. So, I have core indicators. Then, if I want to look at it from a scenario basis na, for example, gusto ko tignan ng volume, maglalagay ako ng mga volume-based oscillators also. Lalagay ko yung volume bars doon. Or pag nagbe-breakout yung stock, then I just want to sell quicker, I'll add probably the parabolic SAR for me to be able to look at yung kung saan pwede mag-exit faster. Or if I want more confirmation on how strong the upward push is, lalagyan ko ng either Bollinger Bands or lalagyan ko ng ADX also. But kahit wala
so Marvin, question, how long do you spend time doing all it? Seems to be very overwhelming. How long do you spend, how much time do you spend on these things to do all of these things?
Unbeknownst to many, if you
I know hindi ka natutulog, but more than
that. Hindi ako natutulog kasi yung crypto 24/7, tsaka yung US stocks gabi, naka-addict eh. Pero yung sa Philippine stocks, yung trend kasi hindi siya nagbabago araw-araw eh. Yung support and resistance hindi siya nagbabago araw. I'll give you an example. For those watching this, na may chart kayo na hawak ngayon, tingnan niyo yung Merrimart, tingnan niyo yung ASEN, they've just been moving in the same range for so many weeks already. So you can spot that in a few seconds lang.
Okay.
So 1 minute at the most per stock. Sobrang tagal na yung 1 minute.
All right. Okay. So next question is, where can we best start investing in foreign stocks? I know you've used eToro. I think seems to be very popular now, but are there any options other than eToro? eToro is one of them. Any other else?
I have 3 brokerages. eToro.
No, based here, Philippines. I'm opening from here. Does have to go out.
I have none. I don't have any.
Okay.
All of my.
If you want to open from the Philippines, I know there's eToro. You can use it, but technically you're opening abroad, yeah. But anyway.
So I have 3. Webull, eToro, then Utrade. Utrade, you have to fly to Singapore. Webull and eToro. Since online siya, pwede. Meron pang iba. You can search Beanstocks, pero hindi ko pa siya nagagamit. So I don't have any experience in it. Yung 3 lang yung gamit ko.
Okay. Sige. Ito, question that everybody asks. Maganda po ba bumili ng Bitcoin? May fund manager din ba sila or transfer na dapat na nakakabili ng Bitcoin? So I guess, so first question, Bitcoin in general. Second, are there such a thing as Bitcoin funds? I mean, or crypto funds? So Marvin, can you answer that?
Okay. I'll segment it. May mga nagbi-Bitcoin mining, I don't do that. So tanggalin na natin 'yon kasi I don't do any of Bitcoin mining. Next is you can treat Bitcoin as a currency na hahawakan mo siya tapos parang pera lang, parang nagtabi ka lang ng dollar. That's the first thing that I started. So
as a utility, I mean parang as a use.
Hindi ko pinang bibili ng kahit ano. Okay. By the way, no, a lot of people have been saying na kung may Bitcoin kayo, wag niyo pambili kasi yung mga pinambayad nila ng Bitcoin dati, mas mahal na yung Bitcoin nila ngayon, so nalugi sila. So that's one. Then second is you can trade it. I do both. I just keep it as a asset, as a store of value. Then the second one is I trade it. I treat it like a stock or forex or a commodity. So,
and when you do that, you apply technical analysis towards it, right?
Essentially, yes. Pero I'm just sharing from the previous movement. Ngayon kasi yung ginagawa yung lately when it drops a lot, I buy again. Then when it goes up a lot, I sell again because the general movement still now is because it's in a bull run, umaakyat siya. Okay. And that's for the ones with heavy movement. But if you want to have a siguro longer support for Bitcoin, I think it's at the $20,000 level. So kung gagamitan mo support and resistance, medyo malayo siya ngayon, 28,000, and pretty much driven siya kasi by its scarcity and because a lot of people are jumping in right now.
Okay.
Right.
There's a lot of also hype going on with it right now. Okay, so ito magandang question. So Bitcoin, I thought dapat tingnan ang fundamentals. So now now the whole context and the concept of fundamentals doesn't always apply. I mean, cannot apply for Bitcoin. So what can you say about that?
Ah, ano siya relative eh. Ako I like it because the US government has printed so many dollars. Meaning because unlimited yung printing nila, ano na yung value ng dollar?
Mm-hmm.
Versus totoo, which is backed up by the US government. Pero yung Bitcoin, it's limited in supply, its value is stopped by its scarcity, and ito yung nagpa-click sa akin that which made me even put in more. For something to be a currency, is a lot of people should accept it as a currency. When Tesla and Apple, and I don't know yung sa Apple yet, starts buying it with billions of dollars, I think the scales are tipping na meron na siyang mass acceptance.
Okay.
So yun. Hindi mo siya matitreat like dollar, pero its underlying ability is people are treating it already as like gold.
Yeah, okay. So that's one. So not just Bitcoin, but there's also like ETH and stuff like that. So question mo, Caroline, no? Sino po ang governing bodies ng Bitcoin? Wala. So it's purely driven by, well, at least Bitcoin, purely driven by the market. So yan yung...
Ayun pala, I wanted to say this. That's one of the things that people like about it,
Yeah.
because it's decentralized. For example, think about sa Africa, sobrang taas ng inflation nila, sobrang corrupt ng government, that their currency is worthless. That's why people are going into Bitcoin, because it gives them stability. So, which may look like a disadvantage to some, it's an advantage also to some.
Okay, and that's the same reason why other nations, other countries, other cultures still value gold, because they trust gold more than their currency. Same principle, a different application. All right? So, yan. So, Aris, non-stock related, di ko na tatanungin. You can ask him personally. Any recommendation for an online broker na hindi pa ganun ka-saturated daw? Kasi I know a lot of people are complaining na bagal lang ito ba? So, di ba, I mean, ideally, you'd have 2, 3 at least, or 2 or 3, just in case one. But minsan problema rin, like somebody was talking to me, yeah, I have 3, but the money is in broker number 1. So, they're very difficult to transfer. So, what can you say about that?
I wasn't in any of the brokers na nagkaroon ng problem. So I didn't encounter any of those problems na mabagal eh. And then I use yung may mga brokers
so wala ka sa call ganon. Yes.
Hindi, pero may mga I'll give you an example. May mga brokers that they have yung higher end nila na platform.
Yeah.
Since konti lang gumagamit nun, hindi kayo maka-experience ng mas sobrang bagal. So pwedeng ganon.
Baga hindi ka sumasakay ng LRT. Okay, so can you identify them? Which ones? Or
for example,
account mo nasa premium na or something?
For example, First Metrosec, meron silang normal account, then meron silang pro account. So the pro account has a different platform altogether. Then Trade Asia, meron silang normal account, then meron din silang prime account. So
and there's entry levels to get to that, no?
Oo, may
in terms of amount. Ano yung, if you can remember, ano yung sa First Metro? And a lot of people seems to like them eh.
I think 250, I think.
Okay. All right. So you pay for, kumbaga, parang gusto mo mas magandang service, mag-business class ka, parang Marvin lang. Okay. So, all right. Thank you daw, Marvin. Okay, without market sentiments, what will drive prices to go high, and how will they do it? Will the company dictate the price if ever? For publicly traded, no. It's always the market that dictates them. But there are many factors that are involved, no? Again, the fundamentals and the technical. So prices are really driven by the market. I mean, some of them are sentiment, some of them are based on something, no? So, Marvin, you wanna add on to this? Tanong ni John.
Hindi, that's what makes it interesting sa market, because everything has yun yung nagpapagalaw sa kanya, supply and demand. So kung walang supply and demand yun, the prices would just be normal. Pero kahit din naman, think about it this way, kahit hindi siya stock market, ginawa lang naman ng stock market, sinentralize niya eh. Pero isipin mo to on a slower level, yung real estate naman gumagalaw kasi pag bibili ka ng presyo, naghahagel kayo ng nagbibente. So that's always inherent in any asset class.
Okay, and that's gonna be discussed next session with Dr. Alvin Ang. At the end of the day, everything's driven by supply. Parang copper mask, di ba? Bababa na price ngayon. Okay? Dahil hindi na siya desirable. I don't know if you're updated yung mga ganun-ganun. So,
YouTuber na doctor yung
Yeah. Which is true naman, may butas sa ilalim. So what are your recommended online brokers? Nakakainis na si Col. He mentioned First Metro and the others, these are good, no? So also, you can also want to take yung bangko mo na may broker para minsan kasi may mahirap yung may transaction or friction cost. So titingnan mo rin yun, ano? But then again, at the end of the day, you want something that's easy to use and then the connection also. Okay. Erit, na tanong na yan. Okay, so okay. Would you recommend strategic cost averaging for VU? What do you mean strategic? Cost averaging for VULs, meaning timing the what do you mean strategic? So, Israel, can you expound, no? Kasi
I know that. That's under Bo Sanchez style. Parang peso cost averaging, but they have a buy below price. I think it fits different types of people na gusto nilang they buy something that's undervalued tapos nagpe-peso cost din sila up until tumama doon sa buy below price. I don't do it, but it works for Bo Sanchez and it works for other people with longer horizons that want to accumulate.
I have an interview with Bo. I'm gonna ask him. Ako naman personally, I cost average but I also buy on dips pag may pera. Okay? Or when Marvin tells me to. So, yun yung advantage ko. So, the strategies are always different, whatever works for you. All right. Good question to from Edward, no, Papa. Is it better to average up or average down?
Assuming investor ka, you average up kasi hindi mo na siya mabibili pababa. Parang katulad ng A-REIT. Wala kang choice.
Even if you want to, ano gagawin mo, diba?
Umaakyat siya, tapos kunyari habol mo yung dividends nun, kung hinintay mo pa mag-correct, by the time na nagbigay sila ng dividends, hindi ka pa rin nakadagdag also. And then you average down because you think it's undervalued. So normally an average up happens when it breaks out. Tapos even though binili mo siya na mas mataas, it's still undervalued based on your time horizon kahit umakyat na siya.
So you can still buy more. Right.
Lalo na sa for some stocks sa states kasi ang bilis ng akyat nila, they go up more than what I've allocated initially. So yun, napilitan ako to add more at a higher price also.
Okay. So Marvin, with this question, because the US global market is so vast, so madami, if you don't really have that much time and siguro convictions and all these things, would you rather buy particular global stocks or a global fund instead? That's invested there.
Wala akong I've never I've bought an ETF before pero China. And the reason why I bought the China ETF kasi hindi ko alam yung mga stocks na listed sa exchange nila, pero I don't have any experience buying yet an index fund or a fund that's exposed globally. Hindi, sorry. May investment pala ako kay Jess. I have a mutual fund sa Singapore that's invested globally. Pero it's just there. It's just there lang. Sorry. So I have both. I have individual stocks, pero in terms of proportion, I have 90 plus more or sobrang iba yung allocation ko for individual stocks. So same principle for the Philippines. If you don't have the time to study yung kung anong stocks yun, then maybe a fund will be okay. If you have the time to study, then you can try individual stocks also.
Same principle, whether it's local or US, no? So if you have the time to do it, then go for. So okay, real good question. Is cost averaging recommended for passive investors?
For people who don't, kasi madaming variations yan eh. Kung marunong kang maggamit ng valuations, meaning bibilin mo siya at this exact PE ratio or pag ganito siya kamura, doon ka lang bibili, then you may not need to use peso cost averaging. Or kung marunong ka mag-charts, meaning sasabihin mo, bibilin ko lang siya every time na tumama siya sa support na to, that's when I start accumulating, or every time na nag-consolidate siya, doon ako magbibili. You don't need peso cost. Pero if you don't know all of those things and you just want to accumulate, assuming na alam mo naman yung fundamentals ng company but you don't know yung cheapness niya or yung timing niya, then you do peso cost.
So yes, it's for passive investors under that definition, and it's actually very effective on index funds and other things also. All right, so tinatanong sa iyo ni Ryan, Sir Marvs, nagpa-funds po ba kayo? Sa dami ng pera ni Marvin, he needs to invest in multiple things. So the answer is yes. Now, he will not disclose kung how much he puts in funds and how much individuals. Basta, whatever that amount is, you cannot fathom that. So, yun na. Okay.
Sobra. Pero I have funds, yeah. I have.
Okay. Kaya lang, barya na lang compared to the volume, no? Right. So, bottom pick strategy nyo, Sir Lodi, Marvin. As sa YouTube mo daw yung mga ganun eh. Okay.
As mentioned, I don't bottom pick. Okay. I look for either reversal sa chart or bounce sa support or mura na siya sa fundamentals. But I never attempt to look for the bottom.
So Marvin, how about nagka-shopping ka ba sa mga basura stocks?
So ganito. Basura stocks, definitely I won't buy it for investing. Basura stocks, as long as may volume, may price action, and then may signal sa technicals, I would buy it with the intent of selling it also later on.
Okay.
Good.
All right, sige. Next question. I don't think I can answer all your questions. Marvin is part of the Facebook group, so you can post your questions there. And then he'll try to answer it.
Okay lang ako, sige lang.
Okay. Pwede rin mo niya inyong once a month sa YouTube, inyong fundamental. Okay. Nag-request sila ng fundamentals din sa YouTube. Meron, no? Marvin has
meron.
Thousands of videos, no? So, it's really So, sige, what can you say about dito?
It's a good stock to trade. Sobrang over ayun, that's a good example. Dito, if you look at the fundamentals, it's not really operating yet. So people are buying it based on what it could be when it starts to operate. Pero from the charts, kitang-kita mo volume is very, very strong. The volume is even bigger than some of the blue chip stocks. It hits 1 billion or 2 billion pesos on the day from daily trading volume. Sa technicals, you would see it also na nag-reverse siya at some point last year. Tapos it started breaking out from different resistances. So from a tech perspective, from a chart perspective, ang daming opportunities to trade dito.
What if the fundamentals cannot sustain it later on? Then you see massive correction. Is this going to be, I try to be a little bit just for critical thinking. Is this going to be like another double dragon na boom and then
yun yung lamang ng chart. Yun yung lamang ng charts kasi I'll give you an example. Mag-ooperate yun dito na March. So malamang yung earnings na titignan natin second quarter na, April, May, June. So yung earnings sa second quarter lalabas yan August. So by the first time that they would release earnings ng talagang operations nila, August 2021 pa. Kung lumabas yung sell signal sa charts ng May or June or July, for those that are following technicals, they would even sell way before the profits would come out. So it does not follow the fundamentals anymore. If that sell signal comes out even before fundamentals would be disclosed, a prudent person that's trading should sell also.
Okay. Last question on dito. Is it a stock for trading or is it a stock for investing? Meaning to say holding on until, X number of years.
I like it for trading. For my own personal experience, I just trade it.
Okay. Converge. Is it a stock for trading or is it a stock that you can hold?
If you followed the videos the past few days, good siya for trading the past few days because it broke out from certain support ranges. For investing naman, twofold yan. If you are a value investor, hindi siya binibili ng value investor kasi masyadong mataas yung valuations. For growth investors, pwede siya bilhin because of its growth. So, that's my answer for that.
All right. Okay. Okay. Marvin said how to start guys, we're talking about that. So I don't want to do that. He does a lot of studies with all these things. Okay. Follow, support the resistance. I think that's kumbaga that's very basic for anybody who wants to buy stocks, no? At least know enough, when is it support and when it is resistance. So very very important 'yan for people, no? Hindi yung susunod lang. Maraming tao na susunod kasi naha-hype, 'di ba? Sino ba rito ang na-hype ng mga now, mga ganun. Anyway, so okay. Ano pa daw crypto ang hawak mo other than BTC?
Ah,
Open to talk about.
core holdings, Bitcoin, Ethereum, yun yung pinaka-core talaga. Ano na yan, since 2018. Then over the past paano ko ito sasabihin? Madami rin kasi ako binili ng altcoin din dati na medyo maliliit lang yung allocation. So,
can you define what an altcoin is?
Anything that's not Bitcoin.
Okay.
that's an altcoin. So, bumili ako ng Tron, yung mga sobrang liliit eh. So there are some that I bought before na hindi ko na hawak ngayon. But if you're asking kung ano yung mga maliliit ko na hawak ngayon, meron akong Dogecoin. I also have medyo bigger na to. I have Litecoin. I also have Ripple. Mula na nagkakaso siya sa States tapos bumagsak na malaki, I went into that, which is doing well right now. So
yeah, man. Okay. So any trading platform you use for crypto?
Sige, I use 4 sa wallet. How do I explain this? Okay, wallet function muna. Wallet function, coins.ph, Binance.
Okay.
For trade.
Can you explain a little bit what the wallet function does?
Wallet, as in wallet lang talaga siya. Parang ginawa mo siyang Paymaya. Parang Gcash lang siya.
Gcash, okay.
Oh, yun. Tapos for trading.
And you need that to trade, right? You need that to...
Ay, hindi ka makaka-trade sa sa coins, wallet lang talaga siya. Tapos for trading, Binance is good. Then na binibili mo talaga yung totoong coin. Okay? So I'll segment it into 2. For trading, kung gusto mo bilhin yung totoong coin, I have Binance. Then for trading, pero binibili mo lang yung CFD, I use eToro and Webull also for that. So 4 'yon. 3 for trading, isa lang talaga doon yung for the real asset, 2 CFD, then yung isa wallet function. So,
right. Okay. So Arlan, your question, special purpose acquisitions company, kasi it's out of the pero maybe you can ask Marvin specifically. Okay, somebody recommend to Trade Asia for traders.
Okay. Prime. Make sure it's Prime.
This is a good question. A lot of people, before I put my answer, Marvin, what happens if the government will intervene and start regulating Bitcoin?
I don't know. I don't know if it can be regulated.
I think that's a question.
I'm not sure if it can be regulated. I don't know how.
I think the Bitcoin's attractiveness stems from the fact that they cannot be regulated.
Kasi it moves outside the system. It moves outside the system. Feeling ko pwede nila i-regulate, for example, Tesla, which is madami ng talk sa States ngayon. Tesla, sinama nila sa treasury nila yung Bitcoin. I don't know how they regulate that per se, pero Bitcoin itself, hindi ko alam how it gets regulated eh. So sige, I'll hypothetically speaking, if it gets regulated, then most likely the price will stabilize. I think or pag ginamit na siya for day-to-day transactions, prices will stabilize. Pero until it gets used for day-to-day transactions, you will see a lot of volatility.
Okay, meron ka daw bang webinar sa February?
After almost a year, I'm trying to start one. I haven't really promoted it as much. I didn't really promote it as much, but I'm trying to pilot run this Feb. Yun.
Sa dami nyo ng tanong, you can attend na lang Marvin's. Is it still under your Stock Smarts brand or?
Sige, I'll type it here na lang.
I'll put it in the Facebook page so that they can get data.
Wala sa Facebook. I didn't even promote it. It's not.
No, in our Facebook page where everybody's a part of in this masterclass. So you can put the link there.
Okay. Or baka makalimutan ko, I'll type it here.
Okay. So that you may want to be able to do more training for here. Okay?
Okay.
What do you mean by question. How to buy in deep? Deep what? Parameters. Okay.
Sorry? What
Ito
was that?
next question mo, Mark eh. Ano buy in deep? Okay, anyway. Kung ibig sabihin mo, buy with a lot of money, si Marvin yan. Ako, change lang yung akin, no? Dogecoin, he said he has that. What's your thoughts on Dogecoins? But parang, bakit parang nagiging joke siya ngayon? Everybody like, parang everybody saying it's like a, dami pang memes.
Yun yung totoong walang utility, yun yung totoong walang value.
Okay.
Yes. Pero tinitweet ni Elon Musk kasi.
Okay, that's that, no? Okay. So, hype na hype. All right. It's like a joke now, ano? Okay, nag-mutual funds daw ba kay traders? Si Marvin, he has mutual funds. So ako na sumagot. Because he has so much money. He has to put some... Okay. So, Ryan, okay.
Sobra.
Yan, genuine question. If not familiar in doing stocks, can we just have mutual fund? Yes, of course. That's what Marvin has been saying. It's your way to, it's a way in. You don't understand, you have time, then you can do it. But remember, merong cost yan. So if you're willing to pay the cost, hindi okay lang. Okay? So again, you need to understand yung time mo, yung acumen mo, may oras ka ba, di ba? Naintindihan mo ba yan? Willing ka pa pag-aralan lahat ng tinuro ni Marvin? Kung hindi, edi baka mutual fund mag-work para sa'yo. And then later on, sa totoo naman, in real life, marami naman hybrid. I still have stocks. So baliktad lang yung ratio. Marvin has funds and stocks, but he has more stocks than he has funds. Ako, because I'm older and I'm tamad, okay, I have more funds than I still have stocks. So you find a strategy that can work for you. Or when you talk to your clients, you try to draw that out, what is in their best interest. Okay, so then that's gonna help you. Okay, okay. May client daw siya, pessimistic ka local stock market now. What is the best way to answer it? Wala kang, alam mo, conviction ng tao yan eh. Pag pessimistic yan, is it your, to convince? Hindi. But you need to be forthright, make them understand. So, yan kasi yung question, but maybe Marvin, you can have an answer. What do you say?
Well, that's why I'm more into US and crypto right now. I'm not saying it won't recover. Yung Philippine market, ang ganda niya October, November, December last year. So, para you see a progression from March to August, sabihin na April to August, ganda US markets. Then it started to consolidate a bit leading up to the US election eh. Then, nung lumabas yung vaccine, Philippine markets naman nag-push October, November, December. Then early this year, it's US and crypto. So, I think what we need to realize is this, when you start investing, hindi siya lagi maganda all the time. Hindi all the time up lagi yung market. There will be times also na pessimistic siya. So kung magiging pessimistic yung market, you have 2 options or 3 options. Number 1, stay in cash, then wait for it to get better, then pasok ka kung trader ka. Number 2, kung investor ka, with the belief that it will get better, pumosisyon ka na ngayon kasi later babalik naman siya. I'll give you an example. BDO at 100 pesos, I still believe is undervalued given that it's BDO at 100. Pero hindi siya 100 yun. Umakyat siya. Pero every time na mag 100, for those who are watching my videos, alam nyo, it's building a support there. Eh. It's undervalued. So, when things get better, most likely, its value will still go higher from 100 pesos. So, if you think that things will get better, pumosisyon ka ngayon kahit nakakatakot. Number 3, other markets.
Okay. So, I bought BDO at 100. You know why? Sabi ni Marvin, bumili ng BDO at 100, which I did. Anyway, so that's so if I make money, thank you, Marvin. If I lose money,
may resistance sa 114 yung BDO.
Sabi mo 100, bumili ako.
Oo nga, 100, 114, 3 double range.
Okay, anyway, here's the funny part, and Marvin knows, I just buy, I hardly sell. Anyway, so the question lang, just to answer, no, perspective, no, yeah, local market, the other markets, but again, it all boils down to objectives, eh. When your client invests, ano bang purpose niya? Is he funding retirement? Then that means that any market that he can go into is good. For some of you, well, I think a lot of you now have products that have foreign exposure anyway. So alamin nyo lang, pag-aralan nyo which among your VULs or your MF have that kind of an exposure. Because like now, I won't say I'm investing in a tech fund. Locally bought here, but actually, wala naman tech dito. It actually invested abroad. And, I've been making money out of that. So, marami ka namang options. Titingin nyo lang. So, you really have to study. And kayo, as an advisor, you study the products well enough so that you can make the correct recommendations for your clients. All right? So other than Tesla, similar stock that can be considered. Meron kang ano, 'di ba? Meron kang mind me to, meron kang mythical stocks dati eh. Are you still holding on to that? Yung 5 mythical stocks?
Core? Oh, I have a long-term investing core portfolio.
Dati, I know you talked that a lot about before, MPIs on them and all these things. It's just
similar. What are you asking? Something similar?
I remember you always talk about your top 5 mythical stocks. Are you still holding on to that? Then later, let's talk about your foreign funds.
Babalikan ko muna, context nun is those are for people who want to buy complementing stocks that 10 years from the time it was posted, buhay pa rin yung company. So that was posted 2010, 2021 na buhay.
11 years na.
Buhay pa rin sila ngayon. So
and it's still strong.
Those were BDO, AC, MPI, something like that. So
they're still good. So aside from Tesla, you mentioned, di ba? So ano lang guys, no? Sinabi ni Marvin, Tesla, of course, he has his own favorites na binibili mo abroad.
Okay. So if you're asking about yung something similar to Tesla, you can research NIO. It's the biggest EV in China right now. So it's capturing its own China market, pero kalaban pa rin niya also yung Tesla doon eh. Medyo malaki rin yung Tesla sa China. So I have both. I have Tesla and I have NIO. So if you want Tesla a couple of years back, I think NIO is it. Pero please research also kasi it still has a long way to go pa. Pero
I had this conversation with Marvin whether I want to go to Bitcoin and everything, and Marvin said something. Sabi niya, Ninong, this is a high conviction investment. For you to come in here, you must have high conviction. So if you're just don't come in. So what I said, sige, I'll just pass na lang ako dyan because the conviction needs to be there. Okay? So
sobrang yaman mo naman kaya okay lang.
No, I'm not a Marvin level. All right. Ito, maganda question. Whatever happened to the Double Dragon REIT?
Wala pang offering eh. So I don't
10. Do you like the Double Dragon REIT? Is it gonna be an A REIT or I have my views but it's controversial.
No, siguro yung magiging plan ko sa pag nag-list sila, no, I'll wait for the price to come out first, and then that's when I'll decide to if I would buy. So I most likely won't buy during the offering period. I will buy pagkalabas na niya sa market. Okay. So ganun din ginawa ko sa ibang other stocks na nag-IPO.
You've not done any IPOs that I remember.
What do you mean?
Have you bought IPO? I don't remember you buying any IPO.
In the past meron, not super recent.
Okay.
Not super recent.
So actually, that's also my take, no? If you really, again, it's a conviction. If you're not convicted, then don't buy the IPO. Wait for it, no? Maghinayang. Pinakakalaban ng stock investor is FOMO. Don't be a FOMO. Okay? Don't fear out of missing. So, Double Dragon, blah, blah, blah. You see the Double Dragon story, no? That can happen again. So, ako personally, and this is my conviction, I am staying away from the REIT because there are other options that I think are better. Okay? Plus, if you look at the story of the Meridian, no, their core business, it's doing well. And this is me, not saying I should stop recording. This is me because it's the reason why it makes so much money. It's because it's Pogo. It's really, I think, more than 80% laman ng Pogo. So, what's your conviction? Is Pogo gonna be? They have not left, honestly. They have not. They're still there. They're still in Meridian Park. The question is, are you convinced that they will stay or things will change? So that will have a tremendous impact on what happens to their REITs, no? So yun lang yung question, so. Okay. Addicting daw, sabi ni Ireland, yung Nasdaq. Kaya si Marvin, laki-laki ng eyebags. Okay. Okay. Quick daw. Ano daw ang advice mo sa mga matataas na valuations masyado? Like dito, nasa 10x. Si Converge sa 12x.
What's the question?
Ano advice nyo for stocks that have very high valuations?
Good. Yun. It goes back to your strategy. If you are a value investor, then it's not something worth buying. So, focus on muna tayo Converge kasi at least Converge may sales eh. Ganun din sa Converge. Converge may prospect siya for growth. So if you're a growth investor and you're okay buying at high value multiples, okay lang siya. Then if you're using tech, both of them are still in their uptrends. Medyo nag-consolidate. Ay, hindi. Kaka-breakout lang nung dito a few days ago dun sa longer, sa 14 peso resistance niya. So it's still progressing in that breakout. Yung Converge halos kaka-breakout din niya. So if you're looking at it from a tech perspective, pwede, kahit mataas yung valuations. If you're a growth investor, pwede. If you're a value investor, it might not be something that you would like. But sorry, I'll share this from a mas kung natataasan tayo sa valuation sa Pilipinas, mas mataas sa States eh. So if you look at Zoom, you look at Fiverr, you look at Square, sobrang tataas ng valuations nila. Pero ako, I look at growth also, what they could be, what the future is for dun sa service nila. So pwede kasi kahit mahal siya ngayon, pero dahil they're growing at a very very fast pace, mura na siya 2 years from now. So, depende sa binibili nyo. Kung mahal lang siya, pero hindi naman siya nag-grow, baka hindi siya sulit.
Okay. Ato maganda to question, no? Sinagot ni Arlan, no? So, how is BTC reported in Apple and Tesla's financial statement? Arlan he's actually in London now with Ernst & Young. They're reported as intangible assets. Pero Arlan, how is that going to be reflected in the value? Is it considered? I mean, is it going to be added onto their asset? So, baka na, tsaka considering yung valuations siya, no? So medyo crazy, no? From an accounting perspective, that's probably sumasakit din ang ulo nyo. So maybe
binasa ko yung report nila, no. Actually medyo magaling sila because if Bitcoin drops, meaning they will suffer a loss, they will take it in as a loss para they lower their taxes. Parang ganoon. Pero pag umakyat, they won't peg it dun sa presyo na pinag-akyatan niya. So parang basta it was a really really smart move on Tesla.
So that I think that's where regulations can come in. Once they put it in their assets, that's where I don't know how they're gonna do it. Maybe Arlan, you can answer. Okay. Singapore, I know ako na sagot. Marvin is noon pa to. I always hear from REITs in Singapore. Do you still do REITs in Singapore? Okay.
Data centers.
Yeah, that's the So webinar mo, Marvin, magkano daw ba yung webinar mo?
Link is there, then we'll email na lang.
Okay, sige. Okay, dami ng question dito, no? Do you use
may QR code pala ako. They can scan this.
Okay, sige, labas mo na nga. Labas mo nga
sa pala ako.
Can you put it out there? There, okay. Grabe, di ka naman masyado ready, no? Okay, anyway, so
Linood ko lang siya.
So, do you use standard deviation?
No.
Okay. I think fund manager.
Pero, I use Bollinger Bands and Bollinger Bands uses standard deviations.
So, in a way, indirectly. Okay. Okay. Sabi niya, along with goodwill, brand recognition, and copyrights. Okay. Yeah, it's for accountants. Medyo yan. Tesla, is it still good to buy at this price?
Relative yung good eh. Okay. Pero ito na lang sasabihin ko. Sasabihin ko yung reason ko why I still like it kahit mas mahal. You're buying it because of Elon Musk. You're buying it because electronic vehicles are the future. If you've ever seen a Tesla, sobrang kakaiba siya compared to other cars that you've ever seen. Yeah. Tapos number 4, you're buying it because I don't think hindi lang siya binibili because it's EV eh. Binibili siya because of its AI. Sobrang galing ng self-driving capabilities niya.
Yep.
Ahead of its time.
For some reason, among all the electric cars, nobody has the Tesla battery. So all the other brands, even BMW, kumbaga, I don't know if you remember, if the Tesla can run twice longer than all other competitors. For some, they have that thing. That's why in the US and some countries ngayon, the BMW is not the status symbol, it's the Tesla na. So, and I rode one. It's like it's not, you don't hear anything. I took a Tesla taxi in Hong Kong. So nagbayad ako talaga. I wanted to experience. It's a beautiful car. It's so quiet. You wouldn't think it was actually running. So and then yun nga the thing, and I was everywhere I travel I see Tesla left and right. So there's this, it's really the thing of the future. Different okay, Arlan, thank you for answering. There are different tax rules for crypto across the world, but typically capital gains apply. So, paano yan? Kung ang laki ng capital gains mo, then you have to pay taxes for that, no? Kana sakit sa ulo. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, given the business market cycles, aggression to exist, why do you think it's hard to, it's not impossible to predict what will happen? Well, number one, it's the market is always, it involves people, and you cannot honestly you cannot predict people, the behaviors, and so many things that happen. Just way too many variabilities. What you can see is trends. I think picking up from Marvin's book, you won't know where the market will end, but you can look at the trends, and then from that you can make the judgment for that. All right.
Gusto ko pala ako sabihin sa Tesla. So, sorry, I want to say more.
Labas ko nga yung picture ko na nakasaya ko sa Tesla. Okay.
Just one more na lang, and I think this is very significant. People buy Tesla because it's Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And when a company achieves something like that, na it's synonymous to the whole industry already, mahirap na siya matalo. Coke, Apple, Bitcoin, you don't even mention cryptocurrency, you always say Bitcoin. When something has achieved something like that, sobrang hirap ma-dislodge yun. Yun lang.
Okay. So okay. So yan, okay, pagbibili daw ng IPO, okay, kasi limited, they all have to distribute the shares, so that's always going to be the challenge. But usually, some brokers, they have certain preferential clients, or some banks have those things. So medyo ganun lang ng gagawin nangyayari. So again, at this point in time, thank you, Marvin. It's been a wonderful time. Always refreshing to talk to you. May meeting tayo, di ba, next week? Anyway, so dito pa nag-plugging, ano. Okay, so always refreshing to talk to you. And thank you, Hana. Yes, I will look for my picture. I actually had to pay, no? But I just wanted to iba yung feeling sa, I mean, I've seen it, but riding one is different. So that Tesla. So the one who asked me, there are funds in the Philippines that you can buy here that actually invested in tech, and they're doing pretty well. I think mine did something like 28 to 30% return year to date. So mga ganun. So I don't want to mention brands and everything. Baka maraming magalit sa akin. Maybe just PM me or PM Marvin. Okay? With that, thank you very much. Okay, let me stop